Hi, I'm George, welcome to GMakes, and this is a quick overview of a cool little car animation I made of this car right here, just drifting through the streets. A little bit laggy right there because it's got to kind of load in. But it's just a quick animation. It started as just kind of a test to try rigging a car model and everything, and then it evolved into making a whole scene kind of just off the bat. So I'm just going to kind of give a quick rundown. It's not a tutorial or anything, but it's just kind of an overview of my process, kind of what my rig ended up being, and then how this thing kind of evolved to look like this, or in material preview. Once it loads in, all these wonderful textures, it starts to look like not just this. Come on, textures, I believe in you. And there we go. It's what it looks like in material preview mode. And it also evolved because my first idea was to just kind of make this a stylized kind of cool thing, and then it slowly became more and more realistic. I don't know if I quite landed on 100%. I think I did with the environment. The car, I kind of just wanted to get out real quickly, so I didn't really spend a whole bunch of time like detailing it or adding those little things that sell realism, like dings and scrapes and blemishes, so I kind of just gave it all a generic metal. And I think that kind of makes it look a little cartoony, video gamey, but I like it. It's in that kind of CG middle ground between realistic and stylized, which I think works for this animation. So in the end, I was happy with it. You can see a real mess right here in cycles because a lot of lighting and a lot of space going on. So I'm going to switch back to material preview mode. So yes, so this is the scene that I have going down. If we go back all the way to the beginning, we're going to watch this playback as it goes very slowly. I have the car here. It starts going down this straightaway, and I have over here on the left, I have a preview just in my solid view mode, just of what the final camera angle and everything is going to be. This is kind of my usual setup when I kind of do anything. I like having my camera view on the left, and then I have my modeling view on the right. And also under here I have my graph editor, and I have my timeline, and then this was my image editor for some UV maps I was doing, and this is my shader editor. Sometimes this is also my geometry node editor and my shader editor, but this is usually kind of my generic setup. And there we go, the car drifts. It has some physics sims with these papers right here, just to give a little more motion to that drift. And then it goes and it speeds off camera. I'm doing a little fishtailing there. And there we go. So that's the animation part of it. That's kind of what I landed on. And so let's take a quick look at my actual car rig, how this thing animates. So this isn't a true rig, like it's not, there's no bones in this or anything, of course, and it doesn't have the nice kind of handles that an actual rig would have, because this was just a kind of an experiment to start off with. So everything is done using empties. So you can see I have it under car. That's all my car parts. And then all those cars are tied to this driving animation, and then the front wheels and all that. They're all parented to each other. So I've basically got one empty controlling the main body of the car, and I've changed the pivot point of the car to right here where the front wheels are, where the engine would be, so it swerves around there, not in the middle like it was rigged to normally, just because that's how models usually work. I also have an empty on each of the wheels. So each of the wheels is separate, and then they are parented to the main body of the car, and they also each have, if I can click on the empty, they each have a driver for the rotation, and that driver is connected to the position of that empty as well. The car body rotation and they all kind of connect to each other. I can't remember exactly how they all work, but they all feedback loop essentially. And then I also have it. So let's actually see. So if I rotate this, or I move, yeah, that one's not parented. Where's my main one? So yeah, so I have, there we go. That's my main car one, driving direction. So this would control if I want to go forward, backward, and then you can rotate it along that axis again. And then you can see I have another nice empty in here, which is the front wheels, because those are the ones that turn. So when I move this along the z-axis, the front wheels are parented along with it, and then they would actually turn as well. So it's all kind of feedback loops, all using drivers and just parenting. And you can see that is my kind of up and down motion. So it's a lot of just connecting things to other things, and nicely you can having these guidelines does help to see what parts are parented. If you don't see those in whatever you're doing, it's often in this box, right in this box, or in the scene view options. Yeah, it's somewhere up here. Grid for bones, motion paths, relationship lines, right there. So that always helps to have that on. Sometimes it gets turned off, or some models don't have it when you import them. Anyway, so that's the basic rig of the car. So I basically keyframed everything on this. There's no physics with the car. We have those drivers, but everything is hand keyframed. So I really controlled the speed. Really had to figure out how I wanted it to kind of fishtail, which I think I got pretty close, maybe not quite there, because also the scale didn't allow for huge finesse in there. And then also when it starts to drift, and also that's why I had all those, so I can control it, give it a little more realistic motion, so that like the body, the wheels stay still, but the body of the car tilts slightly, and all that jazz. And then the whole thing also tilts slightly. But yeah, so that's the main thing of the car. And then the little embellishes I have are like these papers, which are just a random picture of a newspaper put on a cloth simulation that I then repeated. So you can see over here I have a cloth sim going. And then I used force to simulate, and I timed it with this car. So the car's not actually doing anything, it's just a force. I think it's just a wind. And these are all the papers. But that is what simulates that and pushes all those papers at that moment. I have this wall because I realized you could see this end and I didn't want to model anything more. So I was thinking like maybe there's a cemetery, like there's something over there that nobody can see over this wall of. I added a little graffiti. I just typed out George Makes. Subscribe to the channel if you like tutorials and fun animations like this and little walkthroughs. But I just typed it out in like a graffiti font that I found, added some asterisks as those little stars, and then just put that onto the texture using a UV map, just adding and mixing an image texture and then controlling it that way. I also got a couple of free models. I have modeled benches in the past for some other little animations, but I got the lamppost models and everything from, I think, a mixture of like Turbo Squid and those, and like God, what's the other one? The other 3D site. Maybe it'll pop up on screen. But I just got a mixture of those free to use models that people have graciously put online for us to download. And then I just modeled a sidewalk with a concrete texture. Repeats a little too much, and the sidewalk doesn't quite make sense, but it's good enough when it's in darkness. Again, this street is also just a street texture. It does kind of get a weird just line there. That's not quite how streets work, because this is, I guess, meant to be a two-way, but it's with like the one-way lines and everything. Doesn't really matter. You don't really notice it again because it's dark in my lighting. It's at night, so it didn't really bother me. And the trees, I really like how these trees are done. This is a really simple hack, so they're not 3D, but they look 3D. That is because they are PNGs with a transparent background. Whether you find them online or you just get a picture of a tree yourself and then just cut out the background using Photoshop or whatever your preferred method. And then you just put one 90 degrees, and then you put another image of the same tree 90 degrees, and then you just kind of line them up so the trunks, the straighter the trunk is, the better. But they can work with a curvier trunk as well. Take that how you want. All trunks are great. All trees are great. See, I've got big trees, I've got little trees. It's just the same two trees, rotated and scaled up and down, because that's all you need. Also, I've got some more free rock models to like do an art installation, because the background was getting a little stale. So there's a couple little lights. You know how like fountains and stuff in cities have. And this kind of like, I guess, park area. I also know this probably isn't how street lamps work in this pattern, but it worked for lighting, gave depth to the shot. And then in the back I have a picture of this is Chicago with an emission shader on it to be blurred out in the background, but give again a little more depth and make it look like there's some city and stuff going back. Yeah, and then I modeled some steps of, yeah, like a courthouse or like a museum or something. Again, with some more benches and some lights. And then I got like, I only need one because you don't see this part in there. Don't do more work than you have to. Don't model whole background, just use a picture. If you only see one lion sculpture, don't add another one. But then this is another free like scan of a lion sculpture I got. And we'll see, we'll go to cycles just so we can kind of see some of these things, compare them to how they look in material preview mode versus how they kind of end up in the final shot. So you can see those papers are real nice, the lights, everything. If we go way back to the beginning of the shot, and also added headlights to the car. The actual headlights themselves on the car are just an emission texture on the headlights. But then I added some actual spotlights to give that little bit of light on the road. But you can see that's how like those lights in the background look and everything. And you can see the trees in the foreground really help sell speed and motion, so that's also why I wanted to do those. The camera even kind of pans around them. I try to make it so the camera doesn't clip through anything, so it's kind of as if there's a person like standing here panning around. Because that's something that can help sell realism, is if the camera feels like it's more or less realistically moving. But that's pretty much it. That's just a quick little rundown of how I animated this little scene. Again, all that work for 5 seconds, but it didn't start out that way, and I learned a lot, and I hope you learned a lot from kind of me talking about this little bit of a process. The actual scene, once I figured out the design, didn't take too long to put up. It was mostly the animation of the car, using the graph editor to really get that feeling down of the drifting. And then lastly, it was sound design, which was just free sound effects and things I had from other packs and whatnot. I didn't really do any Foley or anything. I just kind of took what I had and blended it together. But yeah, so that's it. That has been a quick little preview of this fun 5-second car animation, kind of the work that went into it, my thought process, and kind of my strategy for tackling this as it developed. If you have any questions or suggestions or ideas, leave them in the comments down below. Hope you enjoyed this overview, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.